Welcome to the OhSoSpurs podcast. Tottenham are through to the FA Cup fourth round. We're in the semi-final of the League Cup with a 1-goal lead against Liverpool, and we have the North London derby on Wednesday. Yet we find ourselves amongst a fan base mostly miserable. To discuss that with us today, and we'll be going over your questions, discussing Dorrington's loan whilst previewing the NLD. But we are going to start by debriefing on that FA Cup game, and to help me with it is going to be Stu in Dubai. How are you, Stu?
Good, all good. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Normally I have to wait till Johnny at the end to ask me that, so I appreciate you caring. Johnny, I'll go for you next. How are you in wet and windy Dublin?
Dry Dublin, not cold Dublin. Any other meteorological information you'd seek? I'm good. Very well, thank you. And I'm glad that you're well too, Jim. So thanks to Stu for getting in there ahead of me.
Thanks. And I'm very envious of Deej's beautiful backdrop there in sunny Austin. How are you, Deej?
Beautiful.
I'm doing good. It's cold here, which is not normal.
And Si, how are you in
sunny Basel? Yeah, -7 here at the moment, so pretty chilly. And I'm not really bothered how you are, Jim, if I'm honest.
Fair enough. It's not your job to be bothered.
It's not my job, that's Johnny's job.
He spent 3 hours with him yesterday. It was more than enough.
Yeah, we had enough time together. We're all sick of each other. But guys, I'm glad you're smiling and happy. We're through in the FA Cup. It was the performance wasn't perfect, shall we say, but can we just dip our toes into the land of Arteta for a second and blame the pitch a little bit for contributing towards it? A 3D pitch, you were saying, Si?
3G pitch, yeah.
3G pitch.
I think most pitches are 3D.
I'm sure if you were there, it was 3D.
Yeah.
Almost certainly.
This is why
unless someone's playing just two dimensions. If they play in 2 dimensions, we could almost blame space time as well. It's the pitch.
3G pitch.
Yeah. Old school.
So a bit outdated, like the phone signal. Everyone else has moved on to 5G, and we're still there. So 3G is the one with the rubber bits in the fake grass. Yeah. So that's why the ball was bouncing all funny, and but we can't put that down as the sole reason for a mixed performance. And we will dive into. Yes, if you're listening, there were some players who did really well, but we have to start with some of the people who perhaps weren't on form. Si, should we say?
Yeah. Am I gonna? Is this the free home run? The first run into bat? Yeah, I'm gonna hit it for 6. It's Werner. Hopefully he's still walking home. My God. No, I know he played him through the centre, and he's never a centre forward. He's never in a million years a centre forward. But it doesn't matter if you get through 1-on-1, you've got to score, haven't you? At that level against that opposition. Their keeper had a good game, but he's got to put that 1-on-1 away. It's becoming it's just a bit of a joke now, isn't it?
He doesn't look bothered though.
No, when we were doing the watch along yesterday, though, I think there was a few times we just started laughing when he got the ball. It's got to that stage. It's got past this guy's crap, this guy's rubbish. He can't. Every time he gets the ball now, we're just like, oh, right, okay, Timo, yeah, nice one, son. But yeah, that's it. So I've had the free hit. I'll let the others have a go at some others that might have needed to step up to the plate a little bit more.
He just looks happy to have made it as a footballer. I don't think he looks confused. Like he doesn't know how he made it as a footballer.
He looks confused as to where he is most of the time.
So I think the strategy was the Spurs bus was supposed to just close the doors and pull away and leave him there. Go, this is Tottenham. This is Tottenham. You've just woken up with a concussion and you play here now. Okay. And we'll take that, what's he called, Super Tonda with a long throw, whatever he's called.
Tommy Tonks.
Tommy Tonks.
We'll take Tommy Tonks in exchange.
It's Tommy Tonks. It's a fixing the net with gaffer tape before. Yeah. It's a 3G pitch.
It's the who are you?
It's pies for the directors. Yeah. It had everything,
class.
Didn't it?
Absolutely
it just had everything. Absolute class.
It did. It's great to be part of these games, though, isn't it? These magic FA Cup games. Do you feel that from Austin when you're playing a team like that?
I love it when my team is a bad bounce away from being talked about for the next calendar year. That's my favorite one. My favorite kind of game. I love them. I love watching. I love it when teams get upset in the FA Cup. It is one of the seeing the limbs is one of the best things you can see in sport, I think, but not when it's against my team. Like you guys can I'd rather. I mean, obviously, we'll talk about the next round draw a little bit, I'm sure, later, but we don't really have to worry about getting upset by like a League Two team, which I guess is both a blessing and a curse. Yeah, I don't know. I would rather not be a part of those for us personally, but I guess for a neutral it was fun until extra time.
Yeah. Well, 77% possession though, D. Do you like stats? Come, we must have done something, right?
Yeah, but we've beaten City when we've had 20% possession before.
Yeah.
Harken
Okay.
your mind back to the Conte days. That's basically all we did.
Yeah, true. I'd read a stat though. We gave the ball away a lot, didn't we? Stu
Yeah.
Johnson and Porro a little bit culpable there.
Porro, I saw a stat earlier that he's given away the ball more than anyone else in the top 5 leagues this season.
Yep.
Which doesn't surprise me at all. But I just want to hark back to the Werner thing, and again, here I told you so. It was one of the previous, prior to the match kicking off. It's no surprise. What were we doing? We've got Lancashire. We have a centre forward. Why did Werner even start? I mean, Lancashire is a player for the future. Werner, hopefully, as we said, we didn't want him to get back on the bus, let alone have his contract extended come the summer. So I just don't understand why we persevere with him when we don't have to.
It's an interesting one. It did feel, in hindsight, like a better game for Lancashire, like you were saying. But Johnny, would you have changed the lineup? Would you have whacked anyone in? Dorrington, Lancashire, someone else but Werner?
I definitely agree with what Stu just said there about Werner and Lancashire. I mean, I suppose the other one which I was surprised by was that Paro played the full game, given what you've just said about the amount of times he's given the ball away. I mean, I don't think that's a coincidence, the amount of football he's played, because he really needs a rest. So I know Spence had to come on anyway, but yeah, that was the only other obvious thing, I suppose, other than the Werner one. It was obviously really nice to have Mikey Moore back, especially playing as much as he did, and seemed to suggest that he wasn't intending to play for as long as he ended up playing, but he seemed to be continuing to improve as the game went on. So it was good for him to get those minutes, obviously, and that's still a part of the pitch where we are clearly really pretty bereft of options right now. So that's really encouraging, I guess, looking ahead to what's coming down the line. So obviously the main thing is we got through. Thank God we didn't have penalties, because we were sort of rather smugly, or just I mean, even though we're seasoned Tottenham fans and you're never going to be totally cocky about things, we were still doing it would be the ideal scenario would be we take our lads off Etra now, and then maybe Arsenal take the extra time and maybe miss losing penalties, which is obviously transpired, but we can't exactly claim the moral high ground when we've been pushed to 120 minutes by a non-league side. I mean, fair play to Tamworth. It was a great.
Yeah.
If you weren't a Spurs fan, yesterday's match would have been really, really class, like a classic. And we were so, as Deej said, so close to that last sort of minute. Oh my God! Like we could easily have easily gone down there. Like, and it is interesting, because I saw somebody put on the Twitter comments and the OhSoSpurs about what would have happened, because I've got this really irritating son who knows that I'm triggered. I'm not telling you. I think you'll never be able to work it out, but he's a wonderful person, but he knows that he can trigger me by going on about Ange. And he was just going, Ange, and all this. Mate, and it totally works. Every time it works. It's really annoying. Because he said, if we lose
now.
this...
You're telling the story, you're getting annoyed now.
I am, yeah. But there's that is a discourse, isn't it, on the social media thing? Like, if we'd lost, despite the Liverpool win, despite all of sort of the sensible talk that we were sort of trying to pursue after that, I know it would have been horrendous. And certainly would have to take a look at himself in certain respects. But, isn't it mad how people are still going back to that so bloody quickly? It's nuts.
Crazy. You could win 5 games in a row and then you lose one and it will be back to that again. It's just...
Yeah.
Whilst you're in mid-table, though, I think there's just where people are going to be and it's frustrating. But we'll dive into that topic later and why that perhaps is a bit of a strange mindset to have as a fan when clearly the club are going to back him based on the comments. But before we go into all that side topics, there was some positives to the game as well. One of our players had a 100% save rate in that game. I'll let you guess who that is. What do you make of Sir Kinsky's performance?
It's a good second game. I think there was one time where he had a little bit of a lapse in concentration, so we say. That was when he cleared the ball out to the left into acres of space when no one was there. But I think that was on the back of a slightly dodgy back pass that he felt he had to take it a little bit too wide. But again, assured, came for balls well, commanded his area well, took the ball well with his feet on a slightly dodgy surface, which you got to applaud that as well. So the guy can't have done any more than he's done in the first two games. But what two polar opposite games to be involved in, isn't it? A cup semi-final in front of 60,000 against Liverpool, and then 800 fans away at the Lamb. The Lamb's at the Lamb. But he had a good game. You can't ask any more of what he's done in the two games for sure. And he's gonna be vying for that number one spot over time. Whether he remains in the side when Vic is 100% fit, I don't know. I think Vic probably comes back in for the league games, but he's certainly going to be pushing for a spot in a very, very near future for sure.
Mm-hmm. And he wasn't the only good player, was he, Deej? Bit of an Yves Bissouma redemption arc going on at the moment.
I mean, Bissouma was. I think he's doing one of those things where he plays well for a couple games in a row, and as soon as we start talking about him being good, he's going to get shit again. So I'm going to avoid talking about Bissouma being good for the time being until I have to remind people that he was good sometimes when he goes back to being shit. So I instead am going to once again talk about something I talked about in the last podcast. Archie Gray. He is just on and off the pitch. I think the thing that really stood out to me the most was like the post-match interview where they were asking him like, oh, the pitch sucked and like it was cold and you didn't have a dressing room. Like, did that play any part into like why you guys didn't win in 90 minutes? And he was like, I'm not going to make any excuses. Just a real future captain's answer. I'm not going to go like some people on Twitter and suggest that he should be captain now because he's 18. That I can't have a captain that's under the age of 21.
He needs to be able to shave.
Probably.
If he's going to captain Spurs. I think.
I would agree. I would agree with that one. But I'm going to reiterate that we have a fantastic player for the future there.
Yeah. Did you see him with his boots and the kid with the scarf on?
That was nice.
He was giving the kid the boots, and the kid went to give him his scarf, and he said, "Are you sure? Are you sure you're allowed? Are you sure your mum and dad will let you do that?" It's just like
such a good lad.
Yeah.
So
mature. Apparently, he reckons his little brother's even better than he is.
Yeah.
Bring him in.
He has to say that.
Yeah, his mum sent him in with those instructions. Go on, get him out of the house. I got one of you out.
It'll bet your little brother Rachel.
Yeah. It's like, can you imagine Can you imagine at Christmas having a child who's a 17-year-old Premier League footballer, and you're like, I think
he's
buy
18
him a pair
now,
of socks.
Jim.
18.
Yeah.
18. You buy him a pair of socks, and he's like, "Here you go, Mum. I got you a Lambo." Yeah. You'd just be so outdone.
Well, she buys him a pair of socks, and he cuts the back out of them.
Yeah. Ungrateful little kid.
Does he do that on his Christmas stocking? Cuts the back out of his Christmas stocking.
And Stu, there's another person who deserves a bit of a shout out, isn't there? In Lucas, we'll just say Bergvall. I think it's Bergvall. I was corrected in the comment section recently.
The swagger that this lad has, I mean, he's just coming on leaps and bounds, and obviously DJ fan number one. He is just such a class act, and we kind of thought we had a superstar when we got him to sign for us rather than Barcelona, and in the pre-season friendlies he was bossing it, but then he kind of disappeared, looked a little dodgy in the Europa League games, and you're thinking, what have we got here? But the last month or two, he's just coming on, and I just love the way he comes on and he demands the ball. He doesn't hide. He might make a mistake, he might hit a bad pass, but he doesn't hide. Wants it again, chases, does the front, the running forward runs with it, looks for the long, expansive passes. he's just a revelation. And again, another 18-year-old. It's just incredible what the future
Thought he was
him and Gray
17.
have.
He's 18.
I'm
Yeah.
joking. I'm joking, Johnny.
Thanks,
Trying to trigger you.
The other thing about Bergvall is for the physicality. We were saying yesterday about his height, but I mean the way that he imposes himself on the pitch as well. Like he stands up to the sort of the Tonks type players as well, doesn't he? He doesn't let them intimidate them. That it's usually they're the easy target, aren't they? The young lads who can be intimidated and stuff. And he doesn't matter who the opposition is. He really now is, and as I agree with what Stu's just said, I think you can see game by game that sort of belief in himself in every respect, not just when he's got the ball, but like how he responds to attention he gets from the opposition, and how he's getting stuck in as well. I mean, he's got obviously the silky skills, but he's also more than willing to. Obviously, could have been an expensive job against Liverpool when he was a little bit too rash with a couple of those challenges. But it's good to see that, because there is a desire there, and he's obviously young, but so seems to be bright enough that you can sort of temper that and learn from the older players around him. But he's fantastic, isn't it? I mean, it's amazing that we've got. You're talking about Gray 1 minute, and then you're talking about Bergvall the next. It's like, it's absolutely brilliant.
And I can confirm through Google it is Bergvall. Bergvall. So it means. Do you know what it means?
No.
Mountain Valley?
Mountain wall.
Wall.
Mountain
That's a
wall.
great name.
Oh, that's
Say again. Do that
it's
again.
a great name for him. I'm going to name my new. I'm getting a dog, by the way. I'm getting a dog. I'm going to name him
There we
Bergvall.
go. One more time.
Bergvall.
One more time, guys.
Bergvall. It is Bergvall.
Bergvall.
So
Bergvall.
to the young Danish person in the comment section who said I got it
Mountain
wrong,
wall.
I got it right.
Swedish.
Just my accent's not there.
Swedish.
Yeah, but the guy in the comments
Swedish.
wasn't Swedish.
Got a load of
Should be
meat.
on his high horse that us English can't get the pronunciations of
English.
Oh yeah. Oh. All right.
Teach, come on, help me out, pal.
Us
Johnny's about to
UKIers.
storm off.
Oh, this is ridiculous.
We've been over this in
Oh god, I've just
1776.
insulted two of you.
The old colonies in the corner.
He's right into
we're
the
all
UN
from
as we
same
speak.
Earth, mate.
Sorry, Jim.
Goodness sake. Right, I stand corrected. And as well, Archie Gray, I think he's actually Scottish, isn't he? But anyway, let's look on these rabbit holes. Guys, it was
isn't it?
look, it wasn't a great performance. We won. Do we just say enjoy it? Or do you
We
have
won
to
North
go
London
into
team in the 4th round of the FA Cup, and it's
Can
Good
we just
shout.
clarify? We're still in all 4 competitions as we speak.
I mean, we have been here before, and then 1 month later, slightly
Mathematically.
different story.
definitionally we
But-
have to be in one of
What's
them.
It's a stretch to say 4.
Yeah, you have to be in one.
Theoretically, yes.
We do. We are contractually obligated to play the remainder of our league games. This is true.
Exactly.
Well, we're trying to get out of it. I think when you get a certain number of injuries, you can start abandoning games, can't you? If you can't field enough players.
I think so.
You only
I
feel
feel like
so
I
we
remember
can-
that happening
I
before.
think it
Yeah,
can happen. It definitely can happen, because when I play Football Manager and I go in the settings and I injure every
that'll be it
Arsenal
then.
player, they have to start forfeiting matches eventually. So yeah, it does happen. Shall we? Well, we got a bit unlucky with the draw. That was a bit Spursy. Blah blah. Still a great fixture to have. We know we can beat Villa, but we'll do that preview another day. Should we go into the questions for the mid break?
Before we go on, I want to shout out and defend a certain very maligned right winger who gets a lot of grief, and to be honest, a lot of it is justified. His lack of tracking back and putting in effort and trying to actually take on his man. But again, a lot of the dangerous moves yesterday came from him. He had the chance at the cross that he hit the post outside of the post. His efforts caused the first goal. He scored the third. I agree he's probably not the starting right winger we all want, but we don't have to call him our top scorer, a waste of space and a clown that doesn't deserve to be at the club.
It's not our job to figure out Tottenham and fix them. All the players. We're supporters. Yeah. Our job is to enjoy Tottenham and help aid them on their journey, regardless of the bigger decision makers surrounding the football club.
But
Yes.
how else will Ange know how to actually coach a football team if I'm not yelling at him in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
comment section
If-
of every piece of Tottenham media?
With all our
Yeah.
UEFA coaches, UEFA badges, right? Between us, we've
Yeah.
got how many was it? Nearly got a C1 between us. So yeah, we'll trust
17.
Ange knows a little bit more about that. 17. We got some good questions
Why
though,
do you
guys.
keep dipping into this pseudo Cockney accent, Johnny? Where do you
He
think
wants
we're
to be
from, by
English.
the way?
He wants to be English, yeah, that's it.
Or son, see, Van Dijk's turned up on the conversation.
Ah. I've got a question. This one's so lined up for you, Stu, from Shafay. When you is it Udogi? But actually, first question for you,
Well,
Stu.
it's a
Is it
Nigerian
Udogi?
name. It's not an Italian name, so
It's
I'm
Udogi.
not
You
trying
followed
to
Serie A and you speak multiple languages. You know these things, right?
Yes,
Is it
but
Udogi?
Italians mispronounce his name.
Okay. Destiny Udogi. Destiny and Porro are both fit. Does Spence still deserve to start?
I mean, to be honest, I think he's been absolutely
Deej is
brilliant,
nodding.
and Destiny hasn't hit the heights of last season since he's come back from his injury. And Spence, I mean, how many defenders can say that they had Salah in their pocket, which he did the other day at left back, which is not his preferred starting spot.
Yeah.
Then he's played centre back. I mean, he came on yesterday to play centre back. I think he deserves to stay in the back line.
Deej,
Yeah, I mean,
you agree?
I think that because like Stu said, I think that I think Destiny hasn't necessarily been as good as he was last season. Obviously, a lot of that you can probably put down to fatigue. And I also think that like we talked about a little bit earlier, like Porro's given the ball away more than anyone else in the league, right? He's not necessarily like he's still providing like offensive output and he's still playing like well, but like I think that there also is like a bit of like a reason to rest him as well. And I think that pretty much every game that Spence has played, he's been our best wingback. I would argue. And he's even apparently can put in a shift at center back, though I wouldn't really call the position he played in against Tamworth a center back.
No.
I would. We basically had two right backs at that point, based on how far off the pitch he was getting in extra time. But yeah, I think that he just hasn't. He's continually showing that he deserves a spot in the squad, and I don't think that you like obviously if it was like Destiny of last season, on that kind of form, or like Porro if Porro was on like a great run of form, then you could make an argument that saying that the Destiny and Porro deserve those spots back. But I don't think you can point to a thing that Spence has done wrong outside of the silly second yellow that got him a red a few games back and say that he's done much to deserve going back to the bench.
Him and Ange have got a little bromance going on as well, by the looks of it. They're always
that was
tickling
Not
each
on
other
my
after the
bingo
game.
card for the 2024-25 season.
No.
But look, fair play to the guy. He dropped the ego, said, I was wrong. I like this guy. We're mates. Well, not we're mates, but I'm going to give him a shot and get along with the guy. Whereas I think Conte or Mourinho would have just refused and just played Austin at left back, just to make a point. The next question, Ross, who runs Tottenham Simpsons. We've already kind of answered this one, but it was around Kinsky's form, meaning Vicari doesn't go at number one. I think we said 2 fewer games to say. Right now, obviously, if Vicari comes back tomorrow, he probably comes in for the league games again. Like, it's only based on 2 games. But if Kinsky does this for the next 10 games, we've got a serious conversation to have about it, and we couldn't have wished for a better start from
I don't know if you guys follow basically I can't remember. It was like the mirror to your source, so this isn't like anything real. I just thought it was funny that there was like a rumor going around that Kinsky is already learning Spanish and he is off to Real Madrid in the summer. Like, he's played 2 games, fellas. Let's calm down.
He's going as a holding midfielder.
Yeah.
Well, after conceding 5 against Barcelona.
I know, they could use a whole new defense. Don't worry, Trent will fix their defensive issues.
The next question was from the wonderful Howard. When Romero comes back, who gets dropped? Dragusin or Gray? Well, I guess it depends. Does it matter which one of Van de Ven or Romero comes back for the answer to that question? I mean, if Van de Ven comes back first, does it mean it's Gray? And if Romero comes back, does it mean it's Dragusin? No?
No,
You think it's
I'm
Dragusin
inclined
for
to
both?
say I'm inclined to say it's Gray for both. We kind of touched on this a little bit in the last podcast, so I don't think we should talk too long about it. Gray's really good. I like him on the pitch more than off the pitch.
I'd move Gray into midfield and keep Dragusin at centre back. So you got the best of both, right?
I think you bought Dragusin to be a centre back. You didn't buy Gray to be a centre back. He's done an amazing job there. So I think you play your players in the position you bought them for. So I don't think he sees Gray as a long-term centre back.
Yeah, but when my wife married me, I had a six-pack and went to the gym and all those other things. I'm a different species now. She still got me.
Well, she's dropped
Things
down
changed,
a couple of leagues in management terms, hasn't she?
Yeah. Next question
Players do
was...
change positions. I don't necessarily. I think the principle of what you're saying, Si, is fair, and especially with a player as young as Gray, who's not had the opportunity to get near the position that he was bought for. So that's totally fair in terms of comparing Dragusin and Gray. But obviously, there are players. Kulusevski is the most obvious one. Who I know Kulu said before that midfield's his preferred position, but the way that he's used now is very different from the way he was used when he first came in. So I just think that it's like just because it's like if you're playing Football Manager or something and it's got whatever position beside the player doesn't mean they have to be slotted in there.
Yeah,
but I suppose as well for the players. For Dragusin's confidence, it would be pretty undermining, wouldn't it? Like for him to be passed down the list behind somebody who's really a midfielder who chips in it.
I guess to your point there, Johnny. It depends what Ange sees him as moving forwards. He knows the player better than we do. If he thinks he's got better development that gets served at centre back, maybe it is. But I would guess, given how good he is on the ball and how good he is at progressing the ball, then that central midfield in some shape or form, the 6 or the 8 would be the final position for him. So I think that probably Dragusin would get the nod when one of them comes back. And certainly if Van de Ven comes back, I think that eases it for Dragusin. And when Romero comes back, if he comes back first, that's then your ball playing centre half, which Gray's sort of doing quite a lot of that at the moment as well.
Yeah. And we've got
it's a fair point.
I actually think that if Van de Ven comes back, I think that would be the only. I think Van de Ven coming back first would be the time where I would think that I would like Gray to stay back the most, because Van de Ven is very good at a lot of things, but I don't think if a Van de Ven Dragusin back line, I don't think has the ball playing capability that we kind of want. So I was thinking because the center back who allegedly is going to be coming back first is Ben Davies, who apparently might be able to make the bench for the North London derby if he gets if all goes well. So I was thinking whether or not who I would like there, and I think Dragusin is actually the pretty obvious answer for that one, just because, like I said in the last thing, Dragusin, for all his faults, he is our best aerial center back, at least of the ones available, and having that profile missing is very dangerous, especially when you're playing teams that like to score set pieces.
I think that when you get the centre backs back, whether one or two of them, it actually puts Gray back in the mix for that right back rotation where he played a lot of his time for Leeds last year as well. So I think for Ange, he gives him a better headache not being at centre back with the right back rotation or a midfield rotation. That then Spence could be your left back rotation for the rest of the season, which makes the January window a bit more targeted to other positions. And I guess we'll cover that in some of the questions we've got in the later on in the pod.
If you're watching on the YouTube channel, you can see here the graph comparing Gray and Dragusin's stats at centre back this season, and you can see, spot on, guys. Gray's progressive play and passing ability is just far superior. He creates as many goals as many midfielders are creating from midfield. He puts very much progressive passes forward, whereas Dragison's actually in the bottom percentile versus other centre-backs for progressive passes, whereas Gray's the polar opposite in the top percentile. But then again, like you guys said, aerial duels won. Dragison's far superior to Gray, who Gray's in the bottom percentile there. So it depends what you want from the player in certain games. But let's not dwell on this topic forever. We've been on this one for a while. So Howard said, should we start blooding more youngsters instead of Werner? But I kind of feel like we've cleaned out the nursery of youngsters. No. We don't have any 17-year-olds left, do we, Johnny?
How old's Vaskovich? He must be about 17. Is he? Yeah.
They're all 17.
Solanke,
I think Vaskovich 16, isn't he?
He's 17.
Vuskovic is 17.
Oh, he is 17. There you go.
He's 17 because he can join us in the... When can he join us? Is it in the summer? Or is it
summer, yeah.
Summer.
So he must turn 18 soon.
Yeah.
Then,
Yeah.
I think it's 1st of February or something like that. He just misses it.
17 3/4. Still clinging on there. Maybe a personal... Oh, that's from Sean, whether I want to pod full time. One day when my boss isn't watching, I'll along those lines, I think that's it from the members. So, here we go. One more from Howard on the questions from the members. If you do want to be a member, you can join our YouTube membership, $1.99 a month. Keeps the show going, and you get all your questions read out every week as well, and access to our exclusive WhatsApp group with us. What more could you want? How many more January signings are we expecting?
That's a great question. I mean, I think based on whether or not you believe that Paulo Milani will be wearing lily white February 1st or not, I do think that does kind of signal our intent to look for a player in that mold, which I do think is something that we kind of need, because while it would, because I think it's kind of like a Werner replacement. Also someone to throw on later in games to change like how we play, and also give Solanke a break, because we don't really we've been down the road of trusting Richarlison's ability to be healthy, I think, too long to have him as our sole backup that isn't Lancashire or apparently Timo Werner. So I think we'll probably get someone of that mold in, and then my guess is that maybe one more if we're being like, it kind of depends on how we feel like our center back, how comfortable we feel with our center back issue. Like if we are, because we have 3 center backs injured at the moment.
Well, this question
4
kind of leads on to it,
Davis,
guys. So we'll shift into this question while staying on the question, because it's from Top Div. Richard Paul has been in the comments since we started. Hey, Rich. News is, so Ari, a new centre-back signing. It appears that Davies, Romero, Van der Ven will all be back in a few weeks. Yep. Should we be prioritising a left-back and an attacker? And the answer is really.
Yeah.
Need backup for Solanke more.
I think Ange has alluded to the fact that he wants to strengthen that front line in a couple of pressers recently. So I think that's probably on the agenda. And to DJ's point, if Moani is on the cards, my understanding is he can play left, right, and through the centre.
Yeah.
Where I don't know where his preference is, but he can play across any one of those front lines. So that gives us some cover there. I think if we get the centre backs back, I'm not sure we go for a left back this window, and I think Spence will be the cover and Gray will be the cover for right. I think we might see a central midfield come in. May do. I think Maddison is so hit and miss at the moment. I think he's fallen out of favour a little bit with Ange, and you might see another creative midfielder come into the play. I still think we need a ready now solid number 6.
Yeah. Well, it's so much depends on Gray again, doesn't it?
Basuma's doing well, Sar's doing well, but they're quite inconsistent at the moment, and I don't think Basuma is that 6 that you're looking for a top 4.
Isn't Gray? I'm adamant.
Not at the
Gray's
moment,
the
I don't think.
We've not actually seen Gray at 6, so we have no idea.
Yeah, but it just is. Okay.
It just is.
To be honest, I would be okay with Biss being our backup 6.
Yeah.
I think Bentancur is the one that we need to be moving on. rather than
Small
Biss.
degree.
He's just cursed with us now. You
Yeah.
know, sometimes you just can't get a break and you just need a fresh start
Yeah,
with a new
yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Confusing that. We better run off
Sorry,
these
just
a bit
very
fast.
quickly.
Go
Sorry,
on.
going back to Moani because I don't really know that much about
Talking
him,
of
to be honest.
rattling, though, what are you doing with your microphone, Johnny? It keeps.
My
It's like
microphone stand is broken,
It's like
so I'm
a
like
man
Will
with
Edmonds.
a shake. With a shaky glass of whiskey, I hear the little ice chinkle
Sorry,
going on.
okay.
Go on, sorry.
Okay, no, I don't have a microphone stand, so I'm like a full.
That's fine. You keep wobbling it, doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Everyone show up
No,
to
just what
OSS Johnny's stand-up performance.
So,
Hey, Johnny
everybody in the house, are you ready for my question?
It's Johnny
I just
Bravo.
wanted to, like Kolo Muani. I don't really know how he plays, like, and his profile as a forward, and thinking about him as being a player you switch for Solanke, and I'm just thinking about how our game has changed with Solanke now. It's completely different from what it would have been if Kane had stayed. And I take DJ's point about bringing him on and switching things and changing things around, but my fear is that is he going to be offering what sort of percentage of what Solanke brings would Moani bring? And is he physical? Has he got a good work rate? Can he hold the ball up?
Wow.
How? And there's the answer.
Well, there you go, Johnny. I put the stats up on the screen for you there.
Pretty impressive.
Ioane
It's quite impressive,
is.
isn't
Can't
it?
get a much better radar
Yeah.
than that.
Yeah.
Hey, but it is a bit deceiving the radar because you're
It's the
comparing
French
League
League.
One
Yeah,
games
exactly.
versus Premier League games.
Yeah.
But it does give you an idea that he
Yeah, no,
is
it's
good in the
encouraging.
air.
It's encouraging.
He's progressive passer and he likes to take players on. So he does seem like, I didn't realize he was, but he does seem like he's a creative kind of striker, which is you'd assume
Yeah.
you'd want another one a bit like Solanke is that brings other people in to play a bit. So
Yeah,
That's good.
he's definitely, at least looking at this, he's more of a creative number 9 than a
Yeah.
goal scoring number 9, which can be dangerous. But I think that kind of profile can also work well with the way that we want to play, and I think it would work pretty well with the strengths that are our current starting wingers. And I would say we assume that Kulusevski is playing in the middle, then the wingers of Son and Johnson, who both don't necessarily want to be doing the creative work as much, and I would probably rather see them being the ones taking the shots. So having that kind of creative 9 isn't necessarily something that I would be too worried about. And also, like you said, all these stats need to be taken with a grain of salt because it is League One or Liga, whoever they're sponsored by these days, Uber Eats, McDonald's, something like that. But yeah, and also it's PSG in Liga, so that adds.
Yeah.
that's true.
He's
That's
not
a-
getting,
can I
he's
put
not
it in
getting
the
too
league,
many
could he?
games, though, is he? He's not getting too many games for PSG at the moment,
No.
I don't think.
No,
But
that's why I
But
wondered.
that's why I think we also need to kind of put a dampener on our
Yes.
expectations of him joining us, is because he apparently has agreed to join Juve as well, according to the rumors coming out of there, and Fab also confirmed it. And then it's a choice of, does he want to join us, where he's likely not going to be starting, or because I presume it's going to be a loan move, it's not going to be a permanent move, or does he go to Italy, where he'll probably be starting in a side that is potentially challenging for the top. I think if I were the player, I would probably go to Italy.
Okay. I agree, and I personally can only see us getting him if Juventus walk away from the deal, and then kind of makes you think, do you really want him anyway?
I mean, I think that it's more whether or not, because from what the rumors are, and obviously according to like David Ornstein, so I'm not just pulling this from Tottenham Talk or wherever. Like it seems to be questions of whether it's a loan with an obligation or not, and I think that that's probably going to be the catalyst for whether or not one of us or Juventus end up going for him, or if neither of them do. Because if they can loan him off it's up to them to see if getting 4 to 6 months of wages off the books is worth, I guess, the hassle. If they decide to go for a loan with an option that's not guaranteed, or basically anything that's not a loan with an obligation. So I think that Tottenham's financial position is such that if we really wanted him and it was a loan with obligation, that we could get him. But to Stu's point, he also has to pass the Ange personality test. I think we've done pretty good with in the entirety of all of Anja's signings. I think that they've all kind of, even if there's been fights for the player like Dragishin, I've never had any issues with his character, even though we had a bidding war between us and Bayern Munich. Obviously, Archie Gray we didn't necessarily have a bidding war for, but once again, how good is he both like as like a personality?
Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily worried if this is someone who Langer and Anja signed off on. I'm not too concerned about it.
Sorry, guys, I need to whiz us along because we've got 15 minutes left and we've got more questions to go. If we don't get time for your questions, we had to prioritise members because that's how it works. But we'll quickly rattle through a couple and we'll stop on one or two. But David H. Was the Tamworth performance a big example of flattering to deceive since Coldplay's last album? Fair play, David. You occasionally do come out of a gem, mate. Kirby, what is taking Tottenham so long to make signings in this transfer period? We're linked to several players of high interest. We've discussed which ones in your second part's question we think are most important, but don't believe everything you read. 90% of these high interest players we're not actually interested in. And I don't think we're taking too long. We're one of only two clubs to sign anyone.
Yeah, I was going to say, who else is moving faster than us right now?
Yeah.
Especially in the January window, I feel like most deals get done on the 31st.
Yeah, it's just the type of window.
Like no one has an incentive to sell unless you're like Lyon, and you're going to go into administration if you don't sell your entire team. Basically, like there's no reason for a club to sell, especially when they can't get like a replacement lined up. And if they do get a replacement lined up, then maybe the replacement that they have lined up, that other club needs to get a replacement. And like
exactly,
it's usually these things. That's why the summer window, even in the summer window, we normally get people signed at deadline day because these things take a while to figure out. And like
there's also
a month is
and there's also the piece about it feels like Langer and the team have it far more locked down than in.
I would agree with that. Yeah,
these things pop out of nowhere. Kinsky came out of nowhere. We were just at the game, weren't we?
First thing was he signed. Yeah.
And the beauty about Kinsky is we were tracking him since at least the summer, and no one knew about it.
Yeah.
The story was that we were gonna sign him in the summer, and then we just moved this summer, and then we just moved it up because of the goalkeeping injuries. So the fact that nobody knew that at all is just it's a positive sign for our market.
Definitely
for our scouting department.
For sure.
Next question. Stu, Archie Gray, your man of the hour, has been my player of the season so far. Young lad in the Prem and playing out of position. Once we have Romero and Van der Ven back, does he go into midfield? We've done this one. Just want to read it out though anyway, John.
Young lad in the Prem.
John Catchpole. Catch Paul. Correct the dyslexic, John, in the comments, won't you? Name cannot be blank. Says, if those chances went in against us last night with the last minute win for Tamworth, do we wake up this morning to Ange being sacked?
Right.
That's made for you.
That's made for you, Johnny.
Get rid of him. No. I think that's what a certain group of our fan base wanted to happen. Not that it would happen. I think
at this point, everything coming out of the club is basically saying that not that performances don't matter. Obviously, if we like dip into like relegation form, then we have questions. But I think that the board is aware that we have a lot of injuries. We've played with at times a completely new back line, essentially, to what we started the season with, including goalkeeper, which is just not something that you can tactic around. Obviously, you could argue that we could have like signed players to put in there, but like you can't expect to have your top three. At time, I believe there was one point where we were worried that we had 4 center backs on the roster and we were going to have 5 injured center backs, which is genuinely unbelievable. You can't do anything about that as a manager.
Tottenham magic. That's Tottenham magic. That is only we can do that.
125% injuries at centre back.
Can I? Looking at the Premier League table at the moment, just being devil's advocate here, being an argumentative person, we're 8 points behind 8th, and we're 8 points above the drop zone. So, and we're 1 point ahead of United, who apparently their manager said that they're in the relegation battle about a week ago. So I'm not saying that that's a conversation we should be having, But going back to what Deej said a minute ago, I mean, from my point of view, the reason I'm saying this from my point of view, unless we literally are down there scrapping with 6-point games against Everton and Crystal Palace and people like that, or teams like that, then like the league, as far as I'm concerned, the league is pretty much dead. And it doesn't mean that you don't try. It doesn't mean you just don't try and win every game. And it doesn't mean that we can't still get back up into a European position. But it's all about the cups now, because that's where we're still in the same. We're actually in a position where we've got 3 competitions we can actually potentially triumph in. So it's just interesting how these things are framed. Yeah. It's just it is interesting. Guys, it's such a weird league this year.
But even then, we're still going to win the treble, get relegated, and play in the Champions League next year after winning the Europa League. So
that's right. Yeah.
And to be fair, a lot of our fan base said that's what they prefer to finishing in the top 4. So don't go whinging when it happens.
Yeah, exactly.
But then it won't be good enough. But no, I can't see it. And like you said, I think we know it's a bit of a safe year to have a bad season in the league. Tomorrow is going to be the day that the punishments are announced. And there's apparently 3 clubs who have risked breaching FFP and PSR. So, I mean, that's a lot of points, Everton, for them to swallow. And they've got to swallow 3 clubs worth of point deductions tomorrow. And that's one place not to the relegation zone. But no, there's also Chelsea, potentially. They were borderline. Arsenal said they were borderline.
Leicester were supposed to be borderline, weren't they?
Leicester are borderline.
I think Leicester are more than borderline. I think from what Kieran Maguire was saying, they're the ones that are in the deepest, I think.
Yeah.
But this all leads into a huge game. It feels like the games we've had are just brutal. Like, why can't we just... The fixtures this year were pretty difficult. You just want to, at some point, have like 3 home games, which are like Southampton, Bournemouth,
Ipswich.
November.
We would lose all of those games.
Get a bit of momentum going.
Jim, really? Look at when have our last 6 wins come from?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
What is it? City,
let's take another top 6 side.
Yeah, true.
Villa.
Wolves.
Yeah.
So that brings us to Wednesday, guys. This brings us to Wednesday, the big one.
It does.
Biggest game of the season. Maybe I think the home ones were the biggest game of the season.
Yeah.
Second biggest game of the season for us in the league. What are we? Anyone confident? Arsenal have their own issues at the moment as well. Thank God we have Kinsky right now. I think I'll be very nervous going into that game that's going to be based around set pieces with Forster in goal.
Yeah. But even recently, their set pieces haven't quite been what they have. They haven't got Saka on delivery, which is a massive weapon for them at corners. Rice has been... Was he injured for a couple of games or just rested for a couple of games? Again, and if he's not in the side, then Odegaard's delivery at corners is not at the same level. You saw that yesterday. He was ballooning them. And I'm not saying that makes it okay, but their challenge is more the other end, where they've got some amazing XG stats and they're not converting the chances in the last few games.
And Jesus is now...
He's injured.
With an ACL injury. Yeah. So they're missing Jesus, Timber, Calafiori, Tomiyasu, White, Saka, and Nwaneri.
Yeah.
So they are. It's not a crisis like ours, but there's an injury problem. You call it that, or they've got as many injuries as everyone else.
Yeah.
So that gives us some hope, doesn't it?
This North London derby will definitely be the stoppable force versus movable object derby. Which will be interesting to see which one comes out on top. Now, but I think for all of the flack, I think that, like, obviously, I think for the North London derby specifically, thank God Dragusin didn't go down injured, because he is, until like Romero and Van de Ven get back, like I think he's our only backup center back that I feel comfortable in an aerial duel. Apparently Richarlison is supposed to be able to make the bench. Which would be fantastic if we needed someone to throw on at the end of a game, both if we needed to try to win some attacking set pieces or defending set pieces. Like, we remember how massive Kane was when we were defending set pieces back when we had him. Having someone who was good at heading the ball, which Richarlison is, in that area, is could be the difference in a game like that. So I don't know, I'm not confident by any stretch of the imagination, but I guess it could be worse.
Yeah. Well, in our last 4 games, we obviously lost 1-0 last time out at home. We lost 3-2 before that. We drew 2-2 before that. We lost 2-0 before that. We lost 3-1 before that. So we haven't beaten Arsenal in 5
For a
games.
while. Since the
4
famous win
defeats
to get
and 1 draw against
3-0,
them,
yeah.
which matches up the tide of, where we are in our projects, right? When you go back to before that bit, it was all Tottenham for a long time, and it's swung the other way for now. But
I know it's not good to kind of tempt fate, but they basically lost at home and are 1 foot 1 leg out of the League Cup. They got knocked out the next game of the FA Cup. If they lose the next league game, they're probably out of the league run as well. I mean, their season could be over in a week, and we could be the ones to do that.
True. In terms of lineup, though, guys, what are we? Anything surprising? Is it, I guess Kulu and Johnson is an argument. Do you start? But then why would you start Maddison?
He'll start Dickie on the right.
You can't start
He'll
Maddison.
start Dickie on the right for sure.
On the right.
But then who plays in the 10? Maddison.
Madison will play.
It's just as bad as Johnson.
Maybe Bergvall.
Bergvall.
Yeah,
I think Kulu gives him a better out and hold-up play on the right than Johnson does.
And the strength.
I think that you'd still start Maddison just because. I mean, if he has another bad performance, then you can hook him at halftime. But I think that he's the kind of player that can dictate a game, and I think that kind of player is very important, especially against a defense as solid as Arsenal's. Even if they are like missing pieces, they're still overall a fantastic defensive unit. And having that kind of player who's like a lock picker, especially when we don't have the kind of player like Odegaard to go like down the wing and beat someone one-on-one. Having that player in the midfield is super necessary. And while I think that's something that Bergvall could do, Bergvall, I don't think that that's necessarily his strength at the moment. I think that Maddison is definitely still better equipped to handle that role.
Isn't it the type of game, though, guys, where, Johnny, you're looking at me, I'll give you this question, you're looking at me grinning, where Maddison has a 10 out of 10 performance and then goes to Everton and has 2 touches and 5 wayward shots.
Yeah, it's like like the City game, isn't it? On his birthday, it was his birthday. He's feeling really good, and he's on the big Sunday afternoon. So I mean, I could easily see that, and I think it's a fair point. I mean, you would certainly feel very confident now about Lucas Bergvall coming off the bench on 50 something minutes or 60 minutes, and really and making an impact. Whether or not Maddison has already done that. And I think that we all know what Maddison can do when he does decide to turn up. And we've seen the first North London derby at their place a couple of years ago under Andrew. It was only last September 23. And we got that 2-2 draw. And Maddison was fantastic in that game. And linking up with Sonny in particular, there was some, there was a lot of really good signs in that game. So 100% like that's I don't care who's playing brilliantly, and it would be great if Maddison could do that more often. And I think that is the sort of game that's probably written in the stars for him, if there is such a thing. I mean, and just one other thing about talking about Arsenal. I know this is a Spurs podcast, but looking at them as a threat now compared to certainly last season as well. I mean, they are so poor, really, aren't they now? With Saka gone, and now Jesus isn't that special anyway. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I know. Well, it's just a discourse. It's just a conversation. But they've got Trossard, Havertz, and Martinelli, and up front, and they're really not very good. So,
but neither are Werner Johnson.
Sorry, boys.
Neither are Werner Johnson and on our wings. I'm passing the mic to Stu. Stu, can you take over here and talk about whether we should play Bergvall in the 10 position instead of Maddison?
So, I mean, to start with, they're all class players. They're brilliant. And I'm sure they're not crap and scoring a hat-trick against us on Wednesday. When it comes to us, I think you're probably right. This is probably the last chance for Madders that he'll get. And I think maybe if we do play Kulu out on the right, he'll want someone with a little more big game experience to be able to handle, the North London derby away from home. But then who are we looking at? We're looking at Sar and Basuma. I'm just thinking the players who I'd play, they pretty much all played 120 minutes. Like Sar, Porro, they're going to be absolutely shattered on
Well, Bergvall's got to
Wednesdays.
start in midfield, surely.
I don't think he will.
Over
Not
Sarr?
in
I
a
don't
game
think
this
he will.
size.
I
This
think he
size.
will. We're gonna have to see.
You need Sar's running.
Sorry,
You need his legs.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be very well.
that would be what I would expect. I would expect Madison, Sar, Basuma in the midfield.
We shall see. We shall see. So Spence start, give Porro a rest. No, he has to start because we've got
He has to start.
no. He has to start on Udagi. So
Are you suggesting starting Regulon?
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh.
Ooh,
In
ooh.
defence of Serge, he's been all right.
He's done. He's done a
He's
job,
done all right.
but
He's
you're
done
not
all right.
starting him above Jed, are you?
No.
Okay.
You're not starting. So I
No.
think Pyro's at right back.
Jedi.
But like we said, we've been saying this for week. There's a big injury in the post for him somewhere. There's a
There
muscle
is.
injury in the post for him. It's on its way. It just hasn't been signed for yet.
Hamstrings.
Mhm.
The postman's turned up a couple of times and no one's been home, but he's gonna get him at home at some point, and then we're going to be saying, well, why wasn't the rotation done more effectively earlier in the season? Of course, that back line, and that's the only. There's other criticism, but that is a criticism of that management team. I think the resistance to do that. Now they'll have their reasons, and we won't unpick that again because that's healed over a bit. But I think yes, Spence at left back for sure.
And should we roll on to predictions, guys? Shall we finish us off with the mystic predictions? Deej, what you reckon?
I mean, I don't know, man. I can't predict a loss, but it's hard to go to the Emirates and like get a result as well. I don't think this is going to be a high scoring game because I don't think Arsenal games kind of ever are. I think it'll probably be 1-1. I think we'll probably concede a set piece because like that's how else are we gonna? Never mind. Not gonna say that. Not tempting fate. I think we'll probably concede a set piece, and I think we'll probably, you know what? Sure, we'll score a set piece too. So 0-0 from open play.
0-0 from open play and 2 set-piece goals. Stu, do you agree with score prediction? And
Yeah,
who's going to score for Spurs? Did you say? Who's going to score?
We'll say that I think Solanke. Solanke will grab it.
Cool. Stu, who do you reckon?
I'm going to go for the same. I think we've been here. I'm just far too scarred as a Spurs fan. We've been there so many times with a great opportunity to kind of take advantage of great situations or put a nail in their coffin, and then they turn the tables on us. So I can't predict a win, but I will go for the 1-1 as well. The goal scorer, I think, will be Sonny because he does love scoring against them.
And Arsenal have lost one game at home since... They've only lost one game at home this season, and that was yesterday. Was it yesterday? Well, Man United in there. No, it was Newcastle. They lost to, sorry. Because it doesn't really count in the cup because it was penalties. So in 90 minutes, they've only lost once this season, and that was Newcastle last week. So they're a tough one to go for. Si, do you agree with Stu? Stu, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I can't predict the win either. I think it might be slightly higher than that. I think it could be a 2-2. It's going to be it's going to be blood and thunder again. I think that they know that at home they can't do what they did at our place. They can't just sit back and hope for a goal on the break or a set piece. The fans just won't have it. They were getting a bit moody with them last night. Actually, I heard on I can't remember what I was listening to. Maybe the Guardian Football Weekly that there was they were talking on there that the fans behind the dugout were shouting at Arteta to attack and get forward. Which, you know, when they've got an XG of +3, that's quite interesting. But yeah, I think they'll come at us from the start because they know they've had success with that in the last few games. Get at us, try and rattle us, get an early goal. But I think we'll fight back. I think it'll be 2-2. I think Decky gets one, and I'm going to say Maddison gets one.
Like it. Johnny, score draw for you?
I was totally going down that avenue until 10 minutes ago, and I've changed my mind. Because you boys are talking too much sense, I'm going to inject a bit of fantasy into
Bit of
the
nonsense.
conversation. Yeah, exactly. I'd
Sprinkle
agree.
a bit of Johnny Magic on it.
Like, yeah, I quite fancy us. I think I agree. If we can weather that storm, that sort of 10-minute barrage, but now we got Kinsky. I've got confidence that that's
He's
doable.
setting all the curses today, isn't he?
All the traps have been
And
set.
after that, it's all going to be good, and we're going to score against Sora on a play. They're going to be absolutely losing the plot. They're going to be like fighting with each other. The Arsenal players are going to be just throwing their toys out everywhere. The crowd are beginning getting on their back. It's going to be an absolute show for them, and I think we're going to win 3-0. So yeah.
What have you done?
Do you know what? That was such a claim that your computer even froze for a second there.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3-0.
God. All right.
Big
Okay.
bad Dom, Sonny
Bad Dom
and
hat-trick.
Monet. No, Sonny gets the second one. Domo gets the first one, just cute little dink, and then Sonny with a breakaway and Kulu. Yeah,
On we go.
Mate.
0-0. 90th minute. We bring on Richarlison coming back from injury. Diving header and dislocates his shoulder after he scores it. Out for another 6
Now
weeks.
for the rest of the season.
So he'd have had 2 touches in the last 6 months, 1 assist and 1 goal in
Great
1 minute of
stats.
play.
yeah.
I'll take it.
Well done, Jim.
Great stats.
There you go. Double header at that. It's finally happening, Johnny. The
Totally.
double header is coming.
Comes off the crossbar, hits his head again.
Yeah,
Love it.
agree. Well, up the Spurs, boys. Roll on the NLD. Remember
Come on, you
to
Spurs.
like, subscribe, and all that stuff. It generally helps when you just. I know everyone says that YouTube, and you're like, doesn't go in my ears because everyone says it. But if you just pause a sec, actually do the clicky thing, and then click the bell. If you're a subscriber, this will really help as well. Click on the
Ding.
bell. That gives you notification of our new content coming. It's going to be good. I'm going to release a vid on Tottenham's
There you
signings
go.
under Postecoglou,
Nice.
ranked. Okay, in a special new format. Watch this space.
There
Watch
you
it.
go.
But
Don't
if
be
you
a
don't click the bell
bell.
icon,
Click
you're
the
not allowed to
bell.
watch it. Click the
Yeah,
bell.
I like it.
Click the bell.
And we're closing in on 3K now, aren't we? For subscribers, it's getting close.
Oh yeah, we're 50
Yeah.
subs away from 3K.
Come on, lads.
So
And-
we've had
and-
a record month. I think we've had 350 this month so far. It's a record month. So it's growing.
Keep
but
it
how
going,
the
lads.
YouTube,
Keep it going, boys and
We
girls.
also-
how the YouTube algorithm works, when you get to 5K, it gives basically it nerfs our videos at like 2.5K. It goes like small channel, you go like loads of views and it just stops it. And you get to 5K, it lets you get to like 4,000. And you get to 10K, it lets you go to like 20 and 30,000. Your video can still explode beyond that, but it needs to be absolutely perfect. The big channels get priority. So it helps us so much by you just clicking subscribe. That's why it helps us. So thank you very much.
Jim, some big news with the old the logo.
Oh yeah, we've also changed our logo. It was a little bit similar to the official Spurs one. I mean,
Yes,
it was the Spurs one with a play button in the ball. So we've changed it so it's no longer any kind of infringement. So there you go, check it out.
Yeah.
Up the Spurs.
Darn you,
Spurs.
Spurs.